is Chief Earhart, and he will be giving us the full-time fire department discussion. Ryan?
All right, good afternoon. So as y'all are well aware, our goal for building our new building was to have full-time firemen. And we're just kind of going in steps. So this is kind of our next step, since we do have our building in place. So with the help of Rebecca, Josh, Emily, and some other departments in close proximity, we have come up with some numbers, just kind of a general idea. This, as you can see, covers overtime, insurance, holiday pay, everything per employee. So we're looking at hiring 3 officers and 3 firefighters. So in this is also, we've worked in like 24 extra 24-hour shifts just for weather-related items, snow. If we need during brush fire season, if we need to have some extra people on shift, we have the money in there to do it. Callback time, that means like if we have a structure fire, we'll allow the paid guys to come back in and help with the structure fire until we pretty well get it under control, then they can be released, but they would need to be compensated for that. So all of that is figured into these numbers. So just shy of 600,000 is what it's going to take to fund 6 paid guys. Josh, do you want to add anything?
No, I think we looked at, as Chief said, we looked at a number of other surrounding towns and what they do with their full-time firemen and shifts. Went back and forth with what kind of shift they operate on. I think Ryan, you may want to explain the shift that you're looking to.
So what we're looking at doing is a lot of places run a 24/48 or 24/72 shift. We're looking at running a 48/96. So they'll work 2 consecutive days, have 4 days off. With our call volume, I feel like we can do it. Cashers is doing it now. They actually run more calls than we do, and they're doing it. Silva's doing it now, and they all love it. And we also felt like that would open up our pool of applicants to not necessarily people in Macon County, that it would go out to possibly Hendersonville, Waynesville, a little further out. They know they can come here, work for 2 days, and they have 4 days off. It's kind of a pretty appealing schedule.
And also, I think talking with the other departments, they clued us in on, the part-time and the extra shift schedules that I think a couple of them had not figured on and were short funds. So they shared that with us. That way we could plug that in. And just so you know how it works, typical employee works 80 hours before they get overtime or comp time. And the way a police officer works is 86 hours before they get overtime or comp time. And that's the way the shifts work. Firemen doing it this way, the way it is anything over 106 hours is when they're eligible for overtime. So they will definitely have overtime in each of their shifts. That's just how it works out. And all that's figured in different lines. So that also was, derived from studying other municipalities around us that also do this. So that you'll have a salary and then you'll have overtime that each employee will get throughout the year.
So I also feel like we're very competitive with the officer pay compared to, say, Silva, Colowee. It's very comparable. The firefighter pay is just a little bit above what the people around us are doing, but since the town has the $15 an hour minimum, that bumped it up to 41,340. So it's not much over what surrounding are paying, but it's very comparable. So officer, it'll be a shift officer. So say me and Eric are on shift, I'm a lieutenant, he's a fireman, just a regular firefighter. I'll be responsible for that shift, making sure that everything gets done that needs to be done. When we go on a call, I'll be the one in charge of us and operations until a higher ranking officer gets there. Somebody's gotta be in charge. So they're gonna be required a little bit more as far as certifications and so forth. But like in day-to-day tasks, if I come in on Tuesday morning and it's shift change and the bathrooms aren't clean, they'll fall back on the shift officer. He'll be the one in question as why did not get done. He'll be ultimately responsible for the shift, for the 48 hours that he's there of taking care of all the duties that are supposed to be done.
The fireman
It's
in
more or less-
charge.
But there's different tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, one's gonna be more responsible. And they could have a little bit more, training,
Is there an incentive to get a firefighter too, or a EMT? Is there a financial incentive? If somebody wants to go from firefighter 1 to 2, we're gonna reward them?
So what we've been looking at in the job descriptions is for the officer to be, they would both have to be firefighter 1 and 2
Right,
certified.
right.
So the officer would be a minimum of EMR, emergency medical responder, which is state certification. And the firefighter would be a minimum of first responder.
Mhm.
So there's a little bit of a difference there. If they want to go get their EMT basic, they're more than welcome to do it. You'd obviously get a 2.5% increase, is that right? When you get a certification?
well, we would have to look at it to make sure that would need to be stated in the job description.
Right. I don't have them in front of me. I didn't bring them. The job descriptions, it's a little bit more responsibility on the officer. He'll be entering
I think you had a little bit more experience time.
time on the job, years of experience. I think it's 5 years of experience for the officer, 2 or 3 for the firefighter.
It's also basically what all the other departments around it. We need to talk to you better. Yeah, one that's just a little bit more than the other. I'm just trying to understand it from my perspective. Yeah. Not really about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a,
So you got 3 officers and 2 firefighters because each, an officer and a firefighter creates a shift.
correct. And the minimum you have to do this shift work is 6.
So the next thing is how to move forward. So as you know, we increased the tax rate to build the building 3 years ago. And we were taking that in for a year or so before we ever had to make a payment on that. So we had a buildup of some of that, about a buildup of some for the purchase of a new truck, which we've done. We've got the order in, we've actually bought it. We sent the money in and the company actually is paying us 3% interest until the truck is completed, which is a good deal. We've still got enough left over to start this program of full-time firemen. We feel like with what we have and what will continue to come in is 2 years worth of monies to be able to cover these 6 full-time firemen. At some point, we would need to look at year 2. We would need to look at where we're at. And if we needed a tax increase, how much would that tax increase be? And at that point, if we felt like we needed a tax increase, we would need to go to the county and ask for that. At this point, we could start this program with just the money we have in the bank. at this point.
So do you need all 6 hires to be able to start?
It would be ideal, yes. Pardon?
So all the shifts are covered.
Correct. It would be ideal. I mean, could you do it with 3 guys? Sure. But at the same time, what are they gonna do when they get there? They can't really, you almost have to work in pairs in order for it to be effective.
And the volunteers still come to the fire,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
and we still pay them, right?
Yes.
And basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, is now, and Eric, you can probably also give some feedback. It's basically the volunteers just show up to the meetings and get trained. Everything else, like now when a fire occurs, well, Ryan and Robbie's down there now, you know, to clean hoses and dry them out and do stuff like that. But a lot of times the volunteers have had to do that, correct?
So, I mean, a lot of the volunteers, they still stay and they'll help us get our trucks back in service, hose clean, re-rack, whatever has to be done. And then they disperse. One of the big things that I think these paid guys are gonna help with is, I mean, obviously response times and so on and so forth like that, but in general, day-to-day stuff, we don't have to have a maintenance night per se to where all the oil gets checked by the volunteers and equipment gets gone over by the volunteers as we do now, where those guys on shift, each day they will have 2 or 3 trucks that they'll have to check off, make sure all the equipment's clean, operating properly, and it'll rotate as their shifts rotate. The vehicles that they work on will rotate. So they won't be just in charge of 2 trucks, you know, they'll have to work with everything.
Okay, one last question. I can't really read this very well, but if you have training, money in there?
Yes.
Okay.
That's more so like if we hire, say we hire Eric and he needs a class, not basket weaving or something like that, we're not gonna pay for that, but an applicable class to the fire department, then the fire department would have, while they're gone, would pay for them to go get that training. They would be paid.
I'm assuming you have continuing training
Yes.
annually or
Yeah.
biannually or something.
So the way Cashers does it, and I'm kind of modeling because they've been doing it for a long time. A lot of this is modeled around the way they're operating. He will allow his guys, his paid guys, to come to their meetings for training and get paid while they're there if they need the certification or the Con Ed. If they don't need it and they just come voluntarily, just to be there.
When do you think we'll be ready for a new rating? New ISO rating?
I think 3 years.
Can we ask for it sooner if you get up and going?
I don't know. They're trying to get, right now, they're trying to get everybody on a 5-year cycle.
Right. But I mean-
And they had a bunch of departments that were way behind.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I could ask.
Yeah, that'd be a real big selling point. Homeowners insurance goes down.
I mean, it's potential of dropping the protection class
Oh, yeah.
and therefore your insurance rates
Oh, yeah.
potentially.
So the next question is, if the board wants to move forward with this, there's 2 options. So we have the money now, we can do a budget amendment, move forward right now. And start the hiring process. Or we can wait, put a new budget together and do it the next fiscal year. The money's there regardless. You know, my opinion is, if you guys are ready to go, let's go. And let's put it out there and hire 6 firemen this fiscal year. Yes, this fiscal year, and actually do a budget amendment to do that.
So, I mean, we're still looking, even if we start advertising tomorrow, you're looking at probably a 2-month process of hiring.
Okay.
Well, we put on Thursday's agenda.
I was about to say that. That would be time to do that.
Brian, what's the, if the
rating of the fire department is lowered or increased, or whichever is the better way, is there a basic relationship between that and insurance rates? I mean, is there a percentage?
Yes. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but yes. So the way I understand this, and I was listening to Warren give his speech to the county. The way that I understand this is 10's the worst, essentially no fire protection.
Right.
A lot of insurance companies will not cover that. 1 being the best. There are very few ones in the state of North Carolina. I think 4. I think. Anyway, so residential comes down to a 6, is as low as insurance companies will recognize protection class 6. That's as low as they will go. On the commercial side of things, the lower the number, the better. So we're at a 4 now in the city and within 5 miles. Outside of 5 miles, it goes to a 5. Between 5 and 6 miles goes to a 5. Beyond 6 miles is a 9. So we do have fire protection outside of the 6 miles. So nobody in our district is technically a 10. That I know of.
So we have a 4 rating, but insurance companies don't recognize anything below 6
For residential.
for residential.
Correct.
So there will be no savings, essentially.
For residential.
Right.
I think that's the way it works, Buds. I'm not 100%. I'm 99.9.
And those numbers were reduced with the recent
Yes,
recertification.
we went from a 5.9 to a 4.9.
You can research that, and come back when you're ready.
Franklin is currently a 3 in the city limits, I believe. It did.
Yeah, when they get 3, my interest dropped, jump.
Right.
So it very well may, some insurance companies may go lower.
So that's not across the board, boom, this is the way everybody, that's not standard operating procedure for insurance companies.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But in the rating, by having 24/7 coverage, doesn't that add to the potential for getting your rating lowered?
100%.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do with response time.
A lot of it has to do with response times, yes.
So, there's been a couple of instances, and it's been no fault of any fireman, but, I know back in the fall, there was a false alarm, say, at the hospital. Well, a lot of people were deer hunting and things like that. People were displaced. They called a second time, and if I'm not mistaken, Cashers assisted in that. Cashers assisted in responding to the hospital because we didn't have anybody to get to the station and get out there. And it ended up turning into from an alarm call, a false alarm call, or whatever you want to call it, to actual active.
It was something
Issue.
having to do with the microwave. The issue was essentially resolved by the time they got there, but
It could have been.
yeah,
or
it could have been,
response
could have
time
been
was
longer.
low. I talked to Warren about it. We had it, but it had been a long time since we had an issue like that. He issued a letter saying, hey, just documenting, you guys didn't make the call quick enough, understand why. But it's things like that that would be solved by having these full-time firemen. I know the fire we had at Sagey Woods, I think EMS may have beat us out there. And EMS is right here. So they jumped in, they were there. We had to get people together to go out there, and we responded pretty fast. But we would have beat EMS there. That response time is just going to be cut.
Another prime example, around Christmas time, the fire at the condos over here on Zachary Road.
Mm-hmm.
Cashers heard the page. They monitor our radio. They monitor us. So if we get paged, they'll jump in the truck and start heading this way before they ever get the page. So they heard us get paged out. Our volunteers have to come from wherever they're at to the station, get a truck and leave. Cashers is already to Whiteside by the time our guys get to the station, essentially. They beat our first truck there by 45 seconds, nearly a minute.
And
You
Chief,
have
it
two
used,
guys there at our station, the tones go off. If they're awake, they should be rolling a truck within 30 seconds.
and Chief, it used to be when Cashers was a volunteer fire department too, we could answer some calls in Jackson County or in their area just as fast or faster than they could
Sure.
get there. But because they went to full time,
Yeah,
the tables have been flipped on us.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to like Franklin now has 13 full-time firemen. They've had 10 for what, 10 years or better?
Several years.
And that makes a difference in their rate.
And this is throughout all the departments.
No, just the.
No,
town
just
of
Franklin Municipal Fire Department.
Yeah.
They just added the 3, so they got 13.
I feel like the probability of life preservation and property preservation is going to go extremely high with having people there versus what it is now.
And I will just say this, and I'm a supporter of our fire department, and I get kind of defensive, but I was reading in the newspaper again today, somebody said, why you have a big fire department? Well, for having full-time firemen in that Sagey Woods fire illustrated, we used all of our equipment and then some to contend with that. So, and when you have a major fire, it's too late to order equipment. You got to have it ready to go.
We had all our resources tied up, plus everybody around us resources tied up. And I don't know that anybody was actually standing by at our station to cover calls if we had another call.
Okay.
So the question is, do we want to start it now? If we go ahead and start advertising, is that what you're saying?
Right, so we could bring it back. We could bring a budget amendment back next week to the town board meeting. If you want to see that, you guys approve it, and we'll start the process immediately.
If there's any reason to wait.
I don't think so.
Go
We
for it.
would have to get a different tax base and everything else, and has to go through the county. So I think if you already got the money now, we should go ahead and implement it now.
Okay.
My only fear with that is in 2 years, if we were to go back to the county and ask if we needed an increase and they tell us no, what are we gonna do? I don't think they will because of once you already have it established, I mean, I think it's there, but you know, they have that ability, so.
2 years, I'll still be the mayor. I'll be your champion on that one. That we're not going to go back to volunteers.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So,
I can't see how the township in any way allowing the county to tell them they can fire. If they're going to pay for it.
and we do have, in the county, we have 2 municipal fire departments, Franklin and Highlands. We are a municipal fire department, and then you have the county volunteer system. So,
Yeah, I think, there was a discussion, I know at the county budget, kickoff budget meeting, and Warren Cave spoke and talked about the fire service. And there is a concern with some of the volunteer fire, departments because they're lacking in volunteers. They don't have the training and all that. And Warren and his folks really assist them, and making sure they're in compliance by the end of the year. I think the 2 municipal departments, they know they don't have to worry about it. And so I think what they're going to be focusing on in the future is going to be those volunteer fire departments out in the county.
Basically, the South End County that did that.
it's a big part.
Southeast End.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm hearing, Amy, is that we would have the staff prepare a budget amendment, any more information, and put this on the agenda for our meeting next Thursday. Okay? Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, I've got a confession. I made a miscommunication, and I'd like if y'all to indulge me and let me move the agenda around. Somehow I forgot to tell Harry that he was on the 2:45. Harry McDonald was on the 2:45 schedule. He's joined us now because I missed it. He said he's going to be here at 1 o'clock. If it's okay, can we have Harry come and do his talk at the Historical Society now, his request, and then we'll pick up with the Police Department, Parks and Recreations. Harry?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My name's Harry McDonald. I'm a full-time resident of Highlands. I live on Little Bear Pen, and I know I mentioned to the mayor several times, I am tickled to death to live here in Highlands, North Carolina. Our garbage pickup service is excellent. The responding with electric lines that get knocked down is fantastic. The road that I live on is fantastic. So I am a happy citizen of Highlands, North Carolina. And I'm here today to talk to you. I'm the president of Highlands Historical Society. And I have a request of a grant that I'd like to propose for the town commissioners. I've given you what I'm going to read so you can follow along and then ask questions at the end. Basically, Highlands Historical Society mission statement is preserve and promote Highlands' rich heritage for present and future generations. Most of HHS time, expense, energy from our board is to promote our history. This is accomplished by opening our exhibit building in the Prince House during the warm weather season. We have a paid docent for guests who arrive, who is also our bookkeeper. That one person is the only one on our payroll. A significant percent of our budget is for new exhibits and maintenance of our facilities. We balance the budget through an annual fundraiser and donations generated by a newsletter. We are not asking for a grant to promote our history. However, half of our exhibit hall is used for storage of our archives in the basement of the building. Over the past several years, it's become very obvious the exhibit hall has structural problems in the roof and ceiling. The roof and ceiling are sagging, and engineers feel the problem needs correcting. We have taken temporary steps for immediate support and are waiting for the engineers to determine a permanent solution. An early estimate is $20,000 cost for the project and hope to get the engineering expense pro bono. HHS is asking for a $10,000 grant to cover half of the expense for the repairs. I want to make the point that as a nonprofit, we are not requesting this grant for operations or entertainment. This one-time grant for a capital expenditure is to house the City of Highlands archives. We feel that HHS is a resource for the town of Highlands. HHS maintains the Highlands archives totally at our expense. However, we are requesting this one-time $10,000 grant fund necessary for the half of the building that houses the archives. The other 50% of the cost will go into our budget that's to promote the exhibits for Highlands history. So I'm very aware of the nonprofits here in Highlands. In fact, this year we have an exhibit that exhibits the history of the Highlands culture of our nonprofits. You take the Bascom, the PAC, the Mountain Theater, and on and on. There's 8 nonprofits here in Highlands. And I would be very, very sensitive to the town commissioners having a grant for just one of these 8 nonprofits. And I want to make it real clear that this is not anything to do with promoting and entertaining the people who come to exhibit hall. This one-time grant that we're requesting is for half of the building that houses our archives. So I'm open to any questions anyone may have. Mayor, and I would say this, I know that this may be an unusual request to come in to ask for these monies. The board is very, very serious about what we do there at the exhibits in the Prince House. And I would say that if there's no area that we can be approved for this grant, I think the thing that we would love for Highlands to have some stake in maintaining the town's archives. It's just as important to the Highlands civic leaders as the government leaders. And if we can't get any leeway on the grant, we would like to ask the town to consider giving us a break for our utilities, for half of our utilities that house our archives, and to have that part of our utilities pass through with no cost. But I thank you very much for your time. And if anyone that wants to talk to me personally, I'd be open to talk.
Okay.
Harry, do you have an idea how many visitors you have through the Historical Society?
I do not know. I know the year before last, we opened up a new exhibit hall. Everything was brand new. Last year, the numbers fell off just a little bit. I was over to Chamber to see what kind of promotion material that we had. And I looked around and we were like one of 50 little promotion. When you come to Highlands, there's a lot to do on a pretty day hiking. We would like to increase our traffic through the exhibit hall. We're open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 10 to 4. And we really need to do a better job of promoting what we have. And I can go around and I can ask Highlanders who've been here for years. Oh, I know where that is. And I say, have you been there? No, I hadn't had a chance to get through the exhibits, but we work with Western Carolina University for the last 2 years. We're working with them again. We got some great new exhibits this year. And Pam Meissner, who directs Mountain Heritage over Western Carolina, will say that Highlands has the best small town museum exhibits that she's seen in North Carolina. So we really have something to be proud of. And I would say that without question, I'm pretty humble in being president because I see the people that have come before me, Rand Schaffner in particular. Rand has done an unbelievable job of creating these archives. It's something that is a real treasure for Highlands. So we're proud of the museum. We're proud of what we have. We asked the town to participate in this one-time structural correction and have half of the cost, which half of the building is for the archives.
Have you considered approaching the visitor center for funding?
We have not. When I met with the mayor, he had indicated that the chamber has pretty good resources with the rental tax, the property rental tax, hotel tax. We have not gone to them. This would be our first request, and we have worked with them. We also put on the Dahlia Festival, which brings in a lot of tourists, and we worked with the chamber with a grant last year for the Dahlia Festival.
Well, last year, I think I just read recently, they gave away $256,000 in grants, I want to say.
It's amazing. I understand that they generate over $1 million revenue from the hotel and short-term rental.
I
type.
would encourage you to go that route.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
One other question?
Is it gonna be 150-year celebration?
The town was founded in 1875, so we're getting real close to that in 2 years. We'll be at that mark. The town history is really interesting and relatively speaking, it's a new town. But the infrastructure to get to Highlands was so significant, it had a hard time rolling. And one of the new exhibits is going to be a timeline for these country clubs that have come in. It's a huge part of the economy here in Highlands. And Highlands Country Club was built by oxen, back in 1920. So it'll have a great timeline with all the country clubs here in Highlands. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call on me if there's any other questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Eric. All right, our next item will be the capital needs for the police department. Chief Holland. There you go.
Yeah, and next. There we go. So this year we're asking for, back, please. Back. Huh? It wasn't working from the side here. Matt, does that clicker work? Okay. Or maybe it worked for Matt, not Josh. So this year we're asking for 2 more Ford Sport Utility hybrids, plus the equipment for those hybrids, in-car cameras, the graphics, rifle, gun mounts, anything that goes into a patrol car to make it patrol ready. So I'm going to skip the third one there and we'll talk about that in detail. We're also asking for what's called phase 2 licensings for handheld and in-car radios. We'll go in more detail about that. I actually asked Matt to stay around and dumb this down for me a little bit. Ryan may also be able to speak about it as well because he's going to have to do it too. And one additional in-car camera for a newer SUV that replaced Michael Hollifield's patrol car when it was crushed by a large tree. So I'll go back to number 3, reface the magistrate. It's a combination of a magistrate, sheriff, highway patrol, and then the intoximeter office. The magistrate's office building purposes is it is the Macon County Magistrate's Office and equipment of North Carolina administration of the courts. They were coming up here on Wednesdays. Several years ago, they were coming up on the weekends, but we later realized that he was coming up basically for the town of Highlands for free. When I took over, I didn't feel that was that much of a necessity at that time for him to come up for free. Hopefully in the future, the state can, provide something like we used to have, a part-time magistrate up here for us. The numbers just didn't work out like we thought at the time, but they're short-staffed as well. They have a magistrate that is extremely sick. So I feel like I'm not going to pressure them to send somebody up here right now with his health the way it is. So they were coming up on Wednesdays, and due to a shortage in their staff, that's on hold right now. But once they're fully staffed as well, or he's able to come back to work, then they'll come back on Wednesdays for the citizens of Highlands. It's also used for intoximeter testing, which is also quarterly inspected by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. And if you're not familiar with what an intoximeter is, that's probably good. So that's if we believe that there's probable cause that you're impaired driving. We'll take the arrestee in there, put them on the little machine, ask them to provide a breath sample. And then obviously if it reads 0.08 or greater, then they'll make a trip to Franklin to the jail to see the magistrate. It's also used for when the magistrate is here. The building is used to conduct hearings in criminal matters with the officers who are bringing cases to them where they believe there is probable cause for an arrest. And it's also used for citizens to determine for officers to determine the probable cause for warrants and for citizens to hear civil issues if there's a land dispute or somebody might want to take out a small claims or something. It is used for that as well. Deputies also have I'm not sure if it's a contract or a spoken contract, that they do have an office in that building where they used to be out at the hospital. And Bill Harrell, when he was the chief at the time, worked with the county, I think the town, to allow them to have an office in there as well, because if we needed assistance or backup, they were closer to us in the event if we needed them. Also, the hospital at the time did not have radio service, so they might miss a call as well. Now that they're in town, then that radio transmission is better. The highway patrol, it's used there as well. Again, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services employee does come every 4 months to inspect that, the device by law. So what I have here is some pictures. So briefly, I'll explain what we want to do is you'll see in the CIP that we've asked for approximately $20,000. Josh can give me a better figure of what I asked for, maybe around 17, I think it was. So we want to resurface the building, the interior of the building. You know, the MS is on one side, our offices are on the other side by side. The building is it's falling apart in some places. You can see here, this is as you come into the main door. This is inside the main door there. It is a tripping hazard. You know, we have a lot of people up in age in Highlands. So I feel if they were coming, whether we had them arrested or not, or if they were coming for other matters, that's a tripping hazard. We have, what we want to do is replace the floor, and I would like to put this same floor, similar to this building here, the same colors, the same floor style. Just give it an upgrade, more pleasing and more appealing to the eye, and obviously safer. Here you'll see, as you walk past that place we just were, that's going towards the intoximeter room. And you see there that the flooring is buckling. You can see here some of I guess I can go have this carpet cleaned, but the same sits. I don't even know what this is. So it's just filthy dirty, and they're having very people.
I know what it is.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Were you there that night?
Maybe. Here's the bathroom here. So this is where the intoximeter, this is the desk we have it on. So the intoximeter's kind of this way. But you'll see here some of the bathroom and how it's the counters coming away from the walls. It's just a nice one. Here, this is not really, I could go get this agreed today, but we want to make this a little more safer for us as well, because we don't have anywhere to secure someone we have under arrest. Basically, they'll sit in one of these chairs right here beside us with handcuffs on. We put the handcuffs in front because we they got a blow machine, they can hold it. So we have nothing to bolt into. And matter of fact, I ended up against that wall. because the guy was probably gonna kill me. So we want to paint all this, replace the floors, replace that bathrooms, the whole cabinet, the sink. You'll see here some of the markings on the walls. It just needs a research, needs a repainting. It's scratched up. See the markings on the wall there? We want to replace those cabinets and that little bitty sink. I didn't show you, but around it, it's just nasty. I've been cleaning this office, part of my extra duties added to the list for about 5-6 years. You just can't get this floor clean anymore. I'll go over there every other week or whatever. Sometimes I get some of the officers to do it. Or want, if they want to stay over and make a little extra money. So we've been doing that. I put straight Clorox on it. I can't get it clean. So that's the office that we would like to if y'all would consider allowing us to resurface that building, similar the colors here and then similar to this floor, and replacing the fixtures and stuff. So again, here are the vehicles. We're asking again for 2 more Ford hybrids. This is one of them we picked up north. So here, if you don't mind, I'm gonna walk around. I think I talked loud enough. So I told you last year that I would be giving you a comparison of the gas and the hybrids. Much like Lamar, it took us a year to get those hybrids. We ended up, Lee and I, Captain Jolly went, the 3 of us went up north and picked up 2 vehicles because it was going over the year. And now we're in the new year asking for 2 other vehicles last year. So we did go up north and pick up 2 patrol cars. Ford let us, they ended up coming in July. They actually held them for us for another month so that we could put those hybrids on this past year's budget. So it kind of worked out, but so the cost of the vehicle for the hybrid is around 42. And the V6, this is saying about 37. I did not give her the new numbers, around 39. It's not that much difference. We average cost about $3.30 a gallon. Obviously, that's going to go up or down. And we're really only saving about we are saving $1,686 in 5 years for the hybrid because of the gas. Maybe it's, when I presented it last year, the internet is believable, says that we would save, I think it was 10,000 or 20,000 over the course of 5 years. That's not true for up here, but we're climbing mountains, around, real slow speeds and stuff like that. I don't know what would be costing, but we are saving $1,686 with the hybrids.
Is that over a 5-year period or per year?
It's not that much. It's not that much.
You haven't made up the difference in the cost of the vehicle over 5 years.
Oh, wait, we're there. We're getting there. I think Nancy somehow figured this in somewhere because I did ask her to figure out the cost of the vehicles as well.
Okay.
So we are seeing about a 5. You see here the hybrid 17 miles per gallon, the V6 12 miles per gallon, sometimes 10 miles per gallon. So there is a difference in gas mileage, about 5 miles per gallon. Not that much difference. I think some of this is, this may have been, you see here, we can get 20. I don't know what the difference is. I haven't worked out before because where we just got these vehicles on the road in January. That's why I don't have a lot for you. It took us 6 months to get our equipment in. Similar to what you were talking about, it might be something where they don't charge us until after we order it. I might need to order it 6 months in advance, 3 months in advance for it to get here. And Jeremy with WCC doesn't charge us until it's in and installed. So that may be something I need to consider much, similar to what Lamar's. So. Now we go. So the Camaro was purchased in 2018, I believe, same time as I got the new Traverse and new Surprise behind the fire department and all that. So we're asking to trade or sell the Camaro. It's got a lot of life left. I don't think it has that many miles on it, but it served its purpose. The Camaro was used to positively influence our youth and has been a positive image for our SRO, School Resource Officer. However, we need the SRO in a vehicle that can be used for all policing practicalities. What that means is when he, if school's out for any reason, he has to switch over to a fully equipped patrol vehicle, one that's road ready to go to work. He cannot patrol in this vehicle. It doesn't have lighting. It doesn't have a radio. It doesn't have rifle mounts. It doesn't have these things. And obviously they can go in the trunk, but it doesn't have the equipment that he would need for everyday policing purposes. So when he does not have school, he has to go to a spare car. There was a couple of instances where there was no spare car for him. So I think I even let him take my Jeep one time to go patrolling around. There's been, so the spare cars, here's another issue while we're asking for the two SUVs, the spare cars that we have are broke down. It's gonna cost about $2,500 a piece to fix those. And we sold the last 2 or 3 on Gov Deals for approximately just a little bit more than that, or maybe around 5,000. So it's gonna cost half the vehicle to fix the vehicle. So that's why we want to trade this car, sell it, and put him in one of the good sedans that we have, so that he can be road ready at any given time. If he leaves the school and needs to stay over until 7 p.m. to cover for an officer because we're short. Then he will have that vehicle, he'll be ready to work. He doesn't have to go drag everything out of there, his rifle, his shotgun, and carry it across the parking lot to get into another vehicle. So we'll put him in one of the sedans and the road patrol officer into an SUV. So phase 2, they're phase 2 P25 encryption keys on every single micro radio that we have, to include handheld radios and every radio in the car. By July 2025, we'll have to have what's called a phase 2 key. Matt, that is a encryption. Matt explained it to me. The phase 2 is basically where we can talk to.
But it just has one call back. Right now, you can create a path to talk to Murphy Manuel, or wherever you want to talk to. And so when you do that, that's great. As I thought you had added more traffic. So the phase 2, they're having a call media that just allows more people to call at the same time on it. And then the encryption key just is not key. So most of our radios won't have to be replaced. They're actually new enough, they'll just need the key. Anybody that doesn't have a radio that can operate on this system, apply for a racing radio on.
So that's going to be around $15,500. We want to go ahead and ask for that this year, to be well in advance to get those installed. I don't want Highlands to. So if we don't get these keys installed by July 2025, our radios are still, they're not going to be working. So we want to get ahead of the game. I don't want a larger agency that needs these key cards installed, because Jeremy has to, with WCC, Western Carolina Communications, has to lay hands on every single vehicle radio, every single handheld radio for anyone that needs these keys. It can't be just anyone installing these keys. It has to be someone that's certified to install Viper radios or radio equipment. So I want to get ahead of the game and go ahead and get this done this year so that next year Highlands Police Department will be operating without any cease. You've got fire departments that's going to have to do this. You've got every single EMS base that's going to have to do this. Now, some of them may have been purchasing them along the way. However, a lot of these vehicles we already had these vehicles, we had these radios. We ran into some issues where some of our vehicles were wrecked, so we replaced with new vehicles. So I think we've had these radios 2, 3, 4 years. So now we've got to get them up to the code. If not, and we have the same conversation next year, and my budget's not improved until next July, then we have a year after that. So we're going to be 17 or almost 2 years ahead of the game. And or little, 6 months less than 2 years ahead of the game. So I think that's very beneficial because where we may be spending 15,500, Waynesville, Asheville, some of these bigger agencies are going to be spending a lot more money than us. So I'm afraid that who are they going to place in front of Town of Highlands? I don't know. I don't want that to happen. So I'm asking for that funding this year so that we are compatible way ahead. And that's my presentation.
I
Thank
have
you.
2 questions.
Yes.
Performance wise, how have those hybrids functioned? Have y'all been pleased with them or not?
Absolutely. So I did talk to, so Thomas Parker and Jonathan both, they love them. They're very impressed with them. They've got more power than the V6 actually, hard to, believe it or not. The only issue they had, obviously for a hybrid shuts off, right? If you're sitting on the side of the road, and that's one thing I'd like to point out. If we're running radar on the side of the road, that's the benefit of the hybrid. The car shuts off. Now, granted, once you push the gas, it comes back on, you're ready to go. We're not chasing people up in Highlands unless it's a violent felon. We're not going to be chasing people. So it only takes a split second for these cars to come on. So it saves what we're not looking at. It saves the overall mechanics of the car. Because we all know, and you can read anything, you can Google it right now, and you're going to find the same thing I'm getting ready to say. We all know that police officers sit on the side of the road. So when these they're idling at different places. And when a car idles for so long, then the mechanics of it start breaking down over time. Whereas a personal car, you're going to be moving around. You're not sitting idling. So this helps the overall mechanics of the vehicle because it shuts the vehicle from running all those motor parts. The only issue that we've had so far that Thomas Parker said that he could live without was that when it was negative 25 degrees up here, what happens? The car shuts down. No heat. So he got a little cold. But other than that, only the Christmas weekend, he has not had that issue since. His car stayed warm and they're absolutely thrilled with them. And according to him, he thinks that we should go forward with them because they've been pleased. The only issues we are having, and Matt is aware of this as well, is the computer screen is not the Brazos where we write our e-citations does not format, is that the correct word, to our screen. So you got an 8-inch by 12, but Brazos wants to go the 12-inch like what these computers, it wants to format this way. So when Thomas's or Jonathan's trying to run a tag as he's going down the road and keep his eyes on it, the Brazos is going to the other side of the screen when he's trying to run these tags and stuff, or the e-citation. So Matt's working on that. And
Essentially, you turn a TV screen into a portrait photo, so 90 degrees. That's what the screen looks like in the car, but it's built in. So it's, you don't have laptops and you're at a police car, you don't have to worry about it, it'll crack all junk. But this cleans the whole camera. So it came from Ford that way. The Brazos so we got a text report call and the text report agent agrees it should have resided itself, but they haven't sent up the ladder to the program. So they want to get that issue fixed, that will be.
Okay.
Right now, it's really hard because they can only see this much of the screen. The rest of whatever they're trying to type on, hang over here, they've got to move it. So right now it's an aggravation point.
And it's a safety issue because the font, it's over here, it's over there. And when you're looking at a tag, obviously, what are we doing? We're texting and driving, right? What we're not supposed to do. Yes. So, but we also can't pull over on the side of the road and run somebody's tag. These benefits are there for us so that we're not tying up dispatch. Every agency in the United States does this. That's why we have these in-car tablets to run these tags and do these things so that we're not tying up for emergency matters to run somebody to see if a tag's expired or whatever. Usually the font's bigger, you know, you're doing this because now we know where our keyboard is and it's not that difficult, but it is difficult. So you will see that I have not asked for what the budget I put in. I did not ask for those screens. They're about $2,500 a piece. If Matt and his team can get these things working and they're operable, then I may come back and say, okay, we're going to get these screens. But right now I did not put it on the budget because we're 3 months into it and it's not working yet.
Okay. Now,
So-
my last question, it's just a category. The speed signs, where are we? And I'll just as a side note, on Monday afternoon, my wife and I were about to have dinner. I heard saw flashing lights again on the curve near Pinecrest. And I saw the last wreck, but we had a major accident on Pinecrest, people flying around that curve. Maybe a speed warning sign, slow down would be helpful. And also the little bear pen neighborhood group, they're trying to raise money for a radar entry sign at that curve. And we've talked about they could possibly come to the town board to get money. The DOT can install it, but they won't fund it. And I know the chief has even said there might be possibility of grants.
So what that is, unless you found out something different. So what they want is
It doesn't go over.
It
It's
does
just a little-
not.
It's just a
So,
little
but
side thing.
it's like $60,000. So now I have asked him to send me whatever it was that DOT is talking about for $60,000.
Okay.
So they want us, the police department, to apply for a grant to help offset some of this cost. That brings me to, I have applied for a grant, but I need, we're talking about these key codes. I have applied for $24,000 grant or $29,000 grant, but my plan is to go ahead and get the CIP in the budget in case it falls through, because I've not got approved yet. But my initial plan is to use a portion of that money for that in-car camera that was $6,000, and the $15,500 for the key, the key codes or the keys for the phase 2. I just didn't mention it because I haven't got approved for it yet. So I don't see any reason that we won't, but I'm waiting for that. So they do. So, I mean, it may be something that we can revisit. You know, if you want more speed signs throughout town, like those one we have, Lamar, we've agreed that no more battery ones. You know, I don't have time to go out there and change out batteries up on a light pole when I'm having to get people on. And I drive by and I see an officer standing on the hood of a pickup truck. So
You're talking about solar.
the solar
charged
one,
battery.
no, the solar ones are okay. I think what Lamar, you and I talked about was moving the one that's over on 64 that's not been working because the solar can't get the light that it needs, correct?
There's not enough sunshine there to make it work.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's what we run into. But he's had so much on his plate. His crew is going to move that one to 106 because we're going to have a lot of sunlight there. We have talked about then purchasing a hardwired one to go over on 64, near where you're talking about it, at Little Bear Pen. They're around $5,000.
Okay,
So if that's something, then I need to pull back on the next, for April. Let me know and I'll stick that in my budget instead of Lamar since it's street stuff, but I'll put it in for my safety, but if that's something that y'all might be interested in.
okay. Well, getting back to the Little Bear Pen, we can await that group
Ab-
to come and say, we've got this
Yeah,
much
they
money.
haven't
and
came yet.
this-
so.
And they haven't done it yet, but if they do, I just want to make people aware of it.
I don't mind looking for a grant that might be out there
Yeah.
that I can get to help that situation, but with that, because to my understanding, it's a very large sign, $60,000 and I'm purchasing, these are 5,000, the ones y'all see. I can't imagine what in the world is $60,000. If I get the grant, and this is what I explained to him, I have to have 3 quotes by Governor's Crime Commission standards.
Okay.
And he's like, I already got a quote. Well, that's great for you, but GCC mandates that we have 3 quotes. So I have to apples to apples know what exactly he's talking about.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of the chief? Chief, don't go sit down yet. You're in the witness block
Go
here.
ahead. I'm gonna fix the table.
Where I figured on hybrid replacements, looks like we're paying a little over $3,300 per unit additional just to have the hybrid.
Yes.
Okay. Where are we? Years ago, we set up a vehicle rotation for the police vehicles. 2 a year, I think.
Yeah.
2 a-
Where are we with that?
We're right on track. So it looks like we weren't because we had some crash and we had to purchase them rather to replace. So
That's kind of where
I'm gonna,
I'm trying to figure, the crash cars.
they're,
Yeah.
they plug. They would have been. Yeah, they were rolled. Yeah, no. So, if you'll give me just a split second, and let me take you back to 2016. 2016, we received a Ford SUV K9 car that was purchased by a generous citizen. So, we won't count that one. That's the one that's tore up in the back parking lot. We also received the Dodge Ram pickup truck that Captain Jolly's still driving, and it's only got like 60-some thousand miles on it. 2017, we picked up 2 Ford sedans, which one of those was the tree one that got crashed. The other one was Thomas Parker's. We have transitioned that one to Officer McLean, Brittany. So it's in good run, and that's one of the ones that we'll probably transition to the SRO if that's approved. 2018, we picked up the Traverse that I was driving and this Camaro. 2019, we picked up the gray Jeep that I'm in now that was for Chief Bill Harrell. 2019, we picked up an SUV for the detective because his was the K9 unit that was crashed, but then he went from investigator, now he's at school resource. We also, 2020, we picked up another SUV because that was crashed. We picked up another one because that was budget. And so we only purchased 1, and then the 2 hybrids 2022. And so, yes, we would be up for 2 this year. Because 1 year we didn't get, there was 1 year that we just got Bill Harrell's, which was my gray Jeep. Yep.
The 2 additional ones would be, or the 2 new ones that you're talking about would be the 2 that were in the.
Yes, we rotate, it's about 6 years. Yeah. Yep.
And one last question, the radios that you have, how many existing can be upgraded for that key?
Every one of them has to, they don't need to be upgraded because we did purchase the radios about 4 years ago. So they are compatible with what the North Carolina State.
When I say upgrade, I'm not talking about new ones, I'm talking about new software, whatever.
Nothing should need to be replaced. That's what you're
We need to buy 31 keys. 31 keys. 31 keys at about $350 plus whatever inflation they decide to do in the next 6 months. And it may be something where I have a little bit in the budget this year. I'm gonna wait till about March that I can start purchasing some of those this budget, and then I'm watching to see where I am. Then I may be able to purchase half of those in this budget, then half the next, and then that won't be as much on the next budget.
Are you fully staffed, Chief?
No.
How many openings do you have?
Well, as of yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was short 1. Yesterday, I'm going to be short 2 again. So we're tired.
I understand.
We're getting there. But
The person leaving, are they retiring? or being
No,
recruited?
she is actually got married, and she has been graciously traveling from Inman, South Carolina, every morning at the first start of her shift. So if she works on Wednesday, Thursday, she'll leave Inman, South Carolina, and travel all the way to Highlands and work 12-hour days here, then drive 40 minutes home to her parents' property out on Rainbow Springs, which is about 40 minutes away. So she's pushing a 16-hour day just to come work for us. I knew it was coming. I couldn't do that. I mean, she's wore out, but she's been doing that since October. So she did put in her notice to obviously not work the distance. So she's going to go work in a bank. I do have a young man I've been speaking with that called me and wants to come work here. He likes the community policing aspect of law enforcement. And so I am prepared that I will be giving him a conditional offer, but he won't start basic law enforcement training until May. And Courtney's sister is a twin, and she did contact, we've spoken, and she's interested as well. So.
I think that's it.
And to let y'all know, we had a gracious citizen come by the PD the other day, just such a nice guy, and felt so sorry for our officer that was standing out in the rain with no hat. They are provided everything that known to the town of Highlands could purchase for them to make this safe and dry.
Good. All right. Our next presenter will be Lester Norris for Parks and Recreation.
Okay. We've got a short one, so you'll enjoy this. If this will work. And I use this pool picture. Dining Dome that built our dome is still using this on their website as an advertisement. This was the first commercial pool they did, and I don't know how many buildings we've sold for them, because we've had people come from New York City, Indiana. Yeah, they should be sending some back. But so far, I don't know how many times they've been back, but they've not charged us yet. And they come from Indiana, send a crew in to work on it. But anyway, the pool's fine today. But what we do need to do is replace our Dolphin, our pool cleaner. And when I got to looking at it, and I thought it was newer than it was, but it is 7 years old. But this thing runs at least 6 nights a week. We'd run it every night, but 1 night a week, usually we have to add some bicarb to it to keep our water balanced, so it doesn't. So the one we bought in 2016 is on its last leg. So it's $7,000 to replace it. They seem to be available, so we can get it soon. And we would keep the other one as a backup, because if anything happens, anything that's happened to this one, we've had to take it to Atlanta, or to Alpharetta is the nearest dealer that can work on them. But we've not found anything.
Is that like a robot?
It's like a vacuum cleaner.
It just goes into the pool and goes around.
I don't know if you remember the old pool. You had somebody that stand out there 2 or 3 hours a night with the hose and the vacuum going. No more. You
Roomba, yeah, what do
Yeah.
they call it?
Yeah, it's a Aruba for a pool, yes. But anyway, you plug it in, you can run it 4 hour, 6 hour, 8 hour shifts, and we usually run it 8 hours. But again, it saves that. Next, I want to talk about the community building. If y'all remember last year, Dennis Wilson came and gave us a proposal on doing the kitchen, and we talked about it because we do have plumbing issues under the floor. Knock on wood, it's been almost a year since they've had to go into it, but last year we were in there at least 2 or 3 times. And they called me over one day and took a camera and slid it in, and the sewer lines have got roots growing through them. And that's all on the concrete slab and under that slab. So anyway, we got Paul Schmidt to come over, measure the bathrooms, and look at remodeling those and making for sure that they were current codes. And he did this. Can y'all see that? Or I've got 3 pictures here.
So where is this? Is this the back of this building or is that?
Must be the best building.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got Paul to look at it. He came up with this plan. We got a local contractor to look at it and give us a price on it. So. let me get-
I want to just ask, you said up the code ADA compliant.
ADA compliant.
Okay.
With the ADA transition plan, we've looked at it and we can do all of that with that. As far as budget, if you remember, Dennis gave us a price of $185,000 to do the kitchen and the new equipment. Paul had put these 2 together, but we asked him to back up and look at it, and or not Paul, but the contractor. And to remodel the restrooms, $190,000. That's to take everything back to the studs, all new appliances. And I think one of the things that's driving this, I know it is having to bust up the floor to reroute the plumbing. Because you're on a concrete slab, nobody knows, there's no plans that we can find of what the structure of that floor is, so don't know what it's going to take. But the majority of those bathroom floors will have to be chipped out, busted out, come back in and replaced. And then $183,000 to do the ADA ramp, the loading dock in the storage room. And I don't know that we need a loading ramp or a loading dock back there. So that's something we could look at that would cut that down somewhat. So the total for those renovations would come up to $558,000. And Paul estimated $4,000 to $6,000. He said, instead of giving a percentage price, it being the town and the community building, he'd rather do it just by the hour, what it cost him to do that. And that's if there's not a lot of changes to these plans that have to be made. Any questions?
Lester, was Doc going to raise money for the equipment?
They asked for what the county would do, and then they would, or the town, not the county, the commissioners would do, and then they would see what they could do to raise some funds. I know he had mentioned Rotary had a little they would give to it, and but I think they were wanting to see what the town would do, and then they'd see what they could do. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. Understood.
Lester, once we start this construction, like the restrooms, does that kill the serviceability of this
It would.
facility while that's going on?
Yeah. You can't meet with a public meeting without facilities.
You wonder how much more it would cost us to tear the whole thing down and start over again. Don't you?
It does seem like a lot for that back.
Hmm.
It does seem like a lot for just that back of the.
It does.
Any questions? That's it.
That's all?
That's all.
Wow.
Really good. Can do.
Any other
You're
questions
getting
about
bathrooms, then, but
what we've heard so
kitchen
far
is
after
used
lunch?
like 3 times a year.
I believe the folks from ABC, they're going to try to get here early So we could just speed this up by taking a break now until around 2:30, and then we will resume. Okay?
Josh, you always wanted it.
You're right.
You always wanted a conference center.
Yeah, I like that.
Hell, Donnie.
Worked on it.